I've been yapping about this trip that I took to Oregon, and you're probably wondering, when the heck does your future self come into all of this? And this is where it comes in. Hello friends, I've missed you guys so much since my last video. This one is going to be different. I usually start off with a script. Moving forward, I'm going to use an outline, and I'm hoping that I will minimize my editing time, which will make me dread the process a lot less. I also hope that it comes out more naturally, like I'm talking to a friend. And at the end of the day, that's kind of my goal here, is to be vulnerable and share myself so that I can meet other people like me, build community, and build that friendship. This is our 5th video. Thank you guys so much for being here, and now let's get into today's topic. So today's video is how to connect with our future selves. First, I'm going to explain where this idea came from and also some of the benefits that come from getting to know our future selves. Then I will share some steps that I've taken to connect with my future self, and then I'll share the results with you guys. So just things that I've noticed along the journey. I'm hoping to meet other people who are into those sorts of things because I love learning about positive psychology, mental well-being, travel, and getting to know my future self. So thank you again for being here, and I'm excited to share what I've been up to. So let's start at the beginning. Where did this idea come from, where I want to connect with my future self? So it all started when I was dealing with major burnout with my college classes. Thanksgiving break was coming up. My partner wanted to take a weekend trip to Oregon to see his friends and then do a road trip down the coastline back to our place. At the time, I felt burnt out. I wanted to stay home and take a break and rest, but I saw this video.
2 things. I wish someone had told me about the value of rest. And number 2, I wish someone had told me about the difference between resting and recharging. I'm going to use a bathtub as an example. Work with me. Let's just say that the energy that you have to do life, to adult, is the equivalent of a certain level of water in a bathtub. If you want more water in your bathtub, you've got to do 2 things. 1, plug the drain, aka pause doing things that require energy, aka resting. And 2, you need to add more water, aka recharging, aka doing things that nourish your soul, that make you feel alive, that make you feel like a brand new person. And that is the reason why sometimes you'll take a break, you'll have a weekend where you do just about nothing, which is amazing, but you're like, why am I still so exhausted? And that's because you haven't really done anything to replenish yourself, to replenish your energy, to replenish the bath water. So think about it. What brings you energy? What nourishes your soul? Do you need to go on a hike?
I honestly saw this video after the trip, but I thought it described my decision making very perfectly. The closer it got to the travel date, the more I thought maybe traveling would recharge me. So I went on the trip and I ended up having a fantastic time. It was the best time I've had in years, honestly. And now in 2024, I haven't really had a hobby or a destination that I felt was replenishing me to that like high degree. So we went on this trip. Like I said, it was absolutely amazing. And I highly underestimated the amount of time that we would have no cell service. When we went up there, I had downloaded 3 episodes of The Happiness Lab by Dr. Laurie Santos. I had listened to each downloaded episode about 5 times each, and the first time, of course, was very intriguing. But once I got to the 5th time, I was over it. I was tired of these 3 episodes. They felt like they were ingrained in my brain. If you plan on traveling, especially to Oregon, I strongly recommend you prepare and download some entertainment. We took a trip. We went to the Ontario International Airport, flew to Portland International Airport, and then from Portland we went to Hillsborough to visit Grove Warden Games, and then we went to Vernonia, Aloha, Banks, Tillamook, and then we went to the Big Lookout at Boiler Bay State Scenic Viewpoint in North Plains. As I'm saying this, I'm sure I'll be sliding through some of the pictures that I took. Then we went to Yakinia Head Lighthouse, also in North Plains, and then the Riverside Inn in Grant Pass, and JD Sports Pub. Later, when we came back down the coast to California, we went to Hiochi Visitor Center in Crest City, California, and we walked the Simpson Reed Trailhead. We had a stop in San Jose, and then we drove straight home from there. So just to give you an idea of my trip and the cities that I stopped in, everything was just new. The trees were new, the air was new, like the smell of the air was new. I just kept sniffing the air the whole weekend that we were there, and I really did think, like, what if I never smell this again? It is so fresh, it is so crisp. It was nothing like I had smelled before, and maybe that sounds weird, and the other thing is, for people who live in Oregon, like, that is their normal. So maybe it's not that amazing. But coming from Southern California, where it's dry, there is never any moisture in the air. It does get cold, but never freezing. Or what I thought was freezing, what I would consider freezing, did not compare to how it was in Oregon. So it was just so interesting. And when everything feels new, when the smell is new and the sights are new, that was refreshing, that was recharging. And at the end of the trip, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed. It was the best thing ever. And it was on a budget, and we were with friends, and it was just fantastic. And now that should recharge me for a few months until I need something else. But it was great, and the more that I talk about it and reflect about it, it's good for my mental health, because it can be very easy to focus on the negatives of things, and I'm very guilty of focusing on the negatives of things. But part of this reflection is to take some time to reflect when good things happen to me, and to remind myself what I enjoyed, so then in the future I could try to incorporate more of these things that I enjoyed. So again, going back to scent, that really seemed to stick with me. So in the future, I'm going to try to incorporate finding new scents, like trying to look for them or go to places that smell interesting, because it brought me so much joy. I've been yapping about this trip that I took to Oregon, and you're probably wondering, when the heck does your future self come into all of this? And this is where it comes in. When I was saying that the 3 episodes that I had downloaded of The Happiness Lab by Dr. Laurie Santos were ingrained in my brain, one of the episodes was called, Does the You of Today Hate the You of Tomorrow? And that episode really stuck with me, because when I was listening to it, it was late at night, it was dark, we were driving through the hills. Dr. Laurie was talking about our future self, and of course, as I'm looking at all the trees, I was thinking, I would love to visit here again. And I would love to figure out, like, what are the steps that I need to take to get my future self back here. So that's all I was thinking during that episode. Like, all I could think of was, how do I get my future self engulfed by nature, back in the trees, back in the crisp air. So again, that was the Happiness Lab. The episode is called, Does the You of Today Hate the You of Tomorrow? And I'm going to go ahead and read off some notes that I took. These are like exact quotes and names that I took from the episode, just to give you guys more context of what was going on there. So in that episode, the guest speaker was Hal Hirschfield. They are a professor for marketing, behavioral decision making, and psychology at UCLA's Anderson School of Management. And in the episode, Hal and Laurie are talking about this experiment by Emily Pronin. Emily Pronin is an American psychologist who specializes in human self-perception and decision-making. She is a professor of psychology and public affairs at Princeton University. So Emily Cronin conducted an experiment where she told a group of college students to imagine hosting a birthday celebration tomorrow. Now go ahead and describe it. And the three most mentioned details were party, alcohol, and cake. Another group was asked to describe the same party, but in the distant future, decades from now. Most people describe the same details. There's a party, alcohol, and friends, but they described it like they were someone else. So participants would say, I'm sitting with a glass of wine, or there I am with a friend from work. They describe it not with their eyes, but as an outside observer. We assume that our future selves will eventually get it together and take the actions necessary to make that future version a reality. But if I already don't exercise or eat well, then how do I expect my future self in a month or a year to be any different, unless I start making changes in the present day? I would need to think of what my future self would want. In the episode, Laurie goes on to explain that Hal Hirschfield brought hundreds of college students into the lab and told them to write a letter to their future selves, explaining what topics were important to them and how they saw life right now. Half of the participants wrote to themselves in 20 years' time, where the other half wrote to themselves in 3 months' time. The goal of this study was to see how writing these letters would change the behavior of the participants. In the weeks following the experiment, the participants who wrote to themselves in 20 years' time exercised for 1.5 times longer than the other participants. So, by connecting with our future selves, we can be motivated to treat them much better. So let's go ahead and recap where we are at right now. So I've shared with you guys that I went on this trip. I listened to The Happiness Lab by Dr. Laurie Santos, and I listened to this specific episode called Does the You of Today Hate the You of Tomorrow? And what we learned from this episode is that people tend to talk about themselves in first person when they are describing something in the very near future. But they also tend to describe themselves in third person when they're talking about the far distant future. So we tend to talk about ourselves as if it's like another character that we're describing when we're talking about our future self. And my goal after listening to this episode is my goal was to bridge this gap between the person that I am today and the person that I am tomorrow. So because I'm an artist here in Southern California and because I run my creative brand Emmyteddy Designs, this has also kind of rippled out, not just from myself and my future self, but also my business and the future of my business. So those are the two things that I've been focusing on during the trip and even after the trip. So let's start with myself and my future self before talking about my business. So for me personally, one thing that I wanted to focus on was money, the money of today and the money of tomorrow in regards to myself. I've been getting recommended YouTube videos about stuff like color analysis because I've also been into that recently, and body shape and how to style clothes. But anyways, one of the other things that I've also been getting recommended is a no spend 2025. If you guys are interested in having your own no spend 2025, I will share some links in the description of these videos that I saw. But one of them was talking about how I should go and make a list of all of my monthly expenses, so like my rent, my utilities, and the necessities that I buy pretty much every single month. So I calculated, like, on average, this is the monthly paycheck, this is the rent, these are the utilities, and these are the necessities. So on average, this is the money that's left over. So it's basically figuring out a budget. Once you have your budget figured out, you could go ahead and make another list. So that's what I did. And the second list is all about the absolute do not buy in 2025. So I was thinking about clothes. I've been wanting to get new clothes, and I was like, well, if I try to go shopping now, I could buy myself some new clothes, and then I could start my no buy 2025. So I went to an Old Navy that just opened up in my city. I went around, and like I said, I got into color analysis and body shape. So I went into the store already having an idea of the colors I wanted, the shape of the clothes that I would prefer, that sort of thing. And it was the fastest shopping experience I've ever had. It was the fastest, it was the most fun, I was the most confident because I went in there already having an idea of what I wanted. I grabbed like 8 things and I ended up leaving with like 4 or 5 items, and then I left the other few. By going into the store and already having an idea of these preferences, I was also able to leave clothes behind. So when I went to the dressing room, I had a few dark green and olive green items as well as a mint green. I like to look at mint green, so I wanted this mint green sweater, but based on color analysis and body shape, I kind of felt that it wouldn't fit those rules. And rules are meant to be broken, but it's still good to have rules or to know basics just as reference. So again, I went into the changing room and I tried everything on. And in comparison to the darker greens, like the olive green items that I had, I thought that the mint didn't look as good, so I left it behind. And by knowing or by having an idea of clothes that would probably look good on me, like I said, it made the shopping faster. And when I went to the dressing room, it made it easier to leave things behind, because prior to my rabbit hole of color analysis and body shape, I probably would have purchased the mint sweater anyways. I probably would have spent more money. I probably would have bought all that stuff. And I maybe wouldn't have loved the mint sweater. So once I bring it home, you know, there's a higher chance that I probably wouldn't have worn it. And then I probably would have donated it. It's a whole thing. So I just wanted to share that part of this, like, getting to connect my present and my future self. Not only did I want to not spend more, like I'm trying to think of my present money and my future money, but I was also thinking about my present style and my future style. So maybe I should talk a bit more about that. What do I want my future self to be like? For starters, I want my future self to budget better, to have more money just for the sake of having it, and to also dress in a way that is flattering to my body, to my hair color, to my eye color, to my skin color. And I also want to smell better. I fell down a rabbit hole of scents as well, and like perfumes and stuff. So I want the future me to, I want my future self to budget better, to have better money management skills, to dress better, to smell better. And the question is, what do I need to do today to make that a reality? Well, I start by writing out my budget. So like I said, the average of my paycheck, write out my utilities, write out my monthly necessities, and then show the leftover balance. And then stay within that budget. In order to dress better, I'm keeping in mind colors that complement me and shapes that complement my body. When it comes to scents, I'm just making more of an effort to use my lotions that I've been holding on to, that have been gifted to me in the past. During Christmas season, I just got into a phase where I fell out of lotion and wasn't using it. Now I'm getting back into it. I'm making it a habit to use scents on myself. So those are the goals that I have, and those are the steps that I'm taking in present day so that future Emily can have those things. So hopefully if I do my part today, future Emily will have better money management skills, and future Emily will dress in a way that's comforting for her, and flattering and makes her feel good about herself. And future Emily will smell good the way that she wants to smell. So I've been learning about the scents that I like and being able to describe it in words instead of just that smells good, that smells bad. It's more descriptive. I learned I really like apple, I like vanilla, I like cinnamon, I like clean and light smells, but I also like citrus, and orange is a really nice smell for me. And if you don't know what kind of scents you like, that's totally okay. It's actually very hard for people to describe what scents they like, but for me that's a part of the fun, is figuring that out, and that's been recharging for me. So going back to the resting versus recharging, this has all been fun. Learning about scents, learning about myself and the scents that I like, and learning about clothes and colors and shapes, and learning about money management. I've been learning about all kinds of things, and it's just been so recharging. And that's why I'm recommending all of these things, because I'm a huge advocate for mental health, and when I find something that works for me, I want to share it with everybody and say, hey, this worked for me. The other thing when I make YouTube videos like this is that it's a reminder for me that I could go back to and be like, well, what was I doing back then? What brought me joy? Maybe it'll bring me joy again. The other thing with these videos is that it gives me time to reflect. And as I mentioned earlier in this video about it being very easy to cling to and remember negative things, we kind of have to force ourselves to savor happy, positive things and train our brains to cling to those things too and magnify those things too, so that it gets into this healthy habit, this healthy cycle of acknowledging good things. So by making videos like this one, I'm acknowledging growth, I'm acknowledging good, happy things, and that's good for my mental health. It's good for me to sit here and reflect. So if you are trying to transition from resting to recharging and you're looking for things that you can do to recharge, I would recommend journaling, vlogging, or talking to a friend about the happy things. So try to make a habit about talking about the happy things. So that is why I'm here. I'm sharing about my Oregon trip. I'm sharing about the Happiness Lab with Laurie Santos. I'm sharing about my present day and my future day. And it really puts things into perspective, honestly. And I made my list with my budget. I made my list of things that I refuse to buy. So as I mentioned, I'm going through lotions. I have plenty of lotions. I will not be buying lotions in 2025. I will not be buying candles or wax warmers, because I have those. I have a ton of wax blocks for the Scentsy wax warmer. I have candles, and I have my lotions, so there's no excuse. And I just went to Old Navy and bought a few things that fit really well, that I felt were a color that complements me and a shape that complements me, so I'm good. I really shouldn't need to buy anything next year. Writing it down, reflecting, I'm hoping that that really helps me, because overspending is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in America. It is a huge problem at Christmas time, is overconsumption. And I'm not going to go into like a whole thing about how overconsumption is not good for our planet. There are plenty of videos that cover that, but that's also inspired me to do my no by 2025. So going into next year, I'm not going to say let's see how it goes, because that can fizzle out real quick. I am going to journal or vlog. I am going to reflect on my budget to the best of my ability every single month, because otherwise it's not consistent. I really need to reflect. And that also brings me into my creative brand, Emmyteddy Designs. The same can be said there. I've always drawn art and sold art from 2017 to now, 2024. But I never saw my business in the span of a full year. I never planned a yearly thing. I never planned a shop update. So by listening to this episode, Does the You of Today Hate the You of Tomorrow? I thought about that from the perspective of my business. Does the Emmyteddy Designs of today hate the Emmyteddy Designs of tomorrow? Basically, because I've never done any planning for it. And of course businesses plan. Of course they have things scheduled for peak consumerism, for all the holidays, for Christmas, and I haven't done any of that. So this year I took some time to plan a few things, to plan something. So this year I workshopped a few ideas with my art mentee Vicky of the Chunky Cowboy. I will also link their stuff in the description. But Vicky has been super awesome when it comes to sharing these creative art business ideas and then getting some instant feedback from someone else who also works in the same field. And the more I talked to Vicky and the more we did these weekly check-ins as a part of our mentorship program, the more I thought about my business on a week-to-week basis, which I had never done before. That was so often and so consistent, but it led to some great ideas, and I got to learn about myself more, which meant that I could make better goals for my business. So one of the things that I learned over this year and in my mentorship is that I love greeting cards. Something that I always talk about with Emmyteddy Designs is that it is where art and community really connect. The slogan for Emmyteddy Designs is where artistry meets community, because I love having art that connects with other people. I love drawing things that I'm interested in and then sharing my art, selling it, and then people telling me like, oh, I'm buying this because it reminds me of a friend or a family member. So I love that community aspect, and I love writing letters and sending mail, and I'm trying to figure out these things that I like. I'm trying to identify them, label it, describe it, and then put that together with my creative art brand, which has led me to custom greeting cards. But not just that, because that is pretty generic. Custom greeting cards could be anything and everything. Then I wanted to figure out, what do I like about greeting cards exactly? And for years, I've told my friends, I loved the postcards in Club Penguin that you could send to your friends as an invitation. And you could invite them to play different mini games. So you could send them a postcard that said, let's go play Connect 4. Let's go to this location was the other thing. You could invite people to your igloo. Come over to my igloo. Let's meet at the pizzeria. Let's meet at the pet shop was another one. So I'm describing that I love mail. I love postcards. I love greeting cards. I specifically love invitations. These postcards that invite you to places and to play games. So as I'm describing all of this, I'm like, okay, I want to make something like that. I want to make greeting cards that are also invitations, that also encourage people to meet in third places. And third places have been dying out. If you don't know what a third place is, basically your house would be your first place, and your work would be your second, or vice versa. And a third place is the third place that you would go to that isn't your house or work, or for some people, your house and school. Some examples of third places would include the library, the park, cafes, arcades, those sorts of things. They are typically places that people can go to share ideas. And one of the things that makes third places so special is that people are able to meet there regardless of social class. So for example, the park or like an arcade, anyone from any background could show up to the park. Anyone from any social class could go to the arcade. And that's what makes them special, is that regardless of social class, you can meet, you can hang out, and you can share ideas. So third places are very important. They're important to our socialization. They're important to social capital. They are just good for community building, and they are not as popular these days because third places are also meant for entertainment. And nowadays, many people have entertainment within their homes as well as convenience. They don't need to go out to rent a movie. They don't need to go out to the movie theaters because everything is streaming. And the problem with that is that it causes us to isolate ourselves within our homes. So we're not really socializing, but we're also not getting the experience of getting ready and driving out and picking out a movie, or finding out that they're all rented out, so you're gonna have to pick something else. Or sometimes asking the cashier. I remember sometimes we would ask the cashier what was popular, or what would they recommend, and having someone in my community recommend something to watch was always really fun. And I could keep talking about third places, but the point is, for the third places that we have left, I made a list of 12 of them. 12 third places that I would love to invite my friends and family to. I wrote this list down in a notebook, and now my business goal for 2025 is to create one new greeting card design for all 12 months of the year. And each greeting card is going to promote the exploration of a third place in your community. So for January, the first month is Let's Go to an Arcade, and that is the name of the collection. It's called the Let's Go collection. So like I said, I already have all 12 months planned out for the most part. I don't have a specific order for them yet, but I have a list of 12. I've already done the first one. It's totally done. I colored it. And then I also want to offer a coloring page version, and it's going to be a monthly subscription service. So if you sign up for the month of January, you'll be receiving the regular greeting card, the coloring page version of it. I say coloring page, but it's still a greeting card. It's just a greeting card that you can color yourself. And then 2 envelopes so that you can mail out these 2 greeting cards. I'm really proud of the idea. I think it encapsulates everything that I'm passionate about, from digital art to greeting cards to third places to making plans to hang out with people. I think all of that is good for mental health, from the art, the community building, that sort of thing. So I'm really happy. I'm really proud. And it honestly wouldn't exist if I didn't socialize more this year. If I didn't have my mentorship program with Vicky of the Chunky Cowboy, if I didn't go on this self-discovery journey, if I didn't prioritize my mental health, if I didn't listen to the happiness lab, if I didn't work on my present day self to make my future self better, to make my future self happier, to make my future self really proud. I feel like I changed and my business has changed so much this year. And if you follow me on Instagram at Emmyteddy Designs, then you know, and you've been here and you've seen all that growth, and I'm impressed. And it's crazy because it's me. wow, I did all of that. And you guys are so nice. You cheer me on. You send me the nicest messages. And I really appreciate it. Like, I made new friends this year. And last year, I don't really remember making too many friends. Or definitely the year before that. Definitely the quarantine pandemic. And it's just been rough. It's been rough for everyone. So I'm really hoping with my greeting card collection, I can encourage other people to make a healthy habit of inviting your friends and family out to third places. It's good for the economy. It is good for social capital. It is good for our mental health. I think it's also good for budgeting. I honestly encourage people to gift more greeting cards, because the thing about greeting cards is that a nice message is the perfect gift, in my opinion. You can never go wrong. Even if you are shopping like the week of Christmas, if you're shopping the day before Christmas, you can get a greeting card and write a really nice heartfelt message. And to me, it kind of takes the stress and the pressure off of buying the perfect gift, especially if I go to the store and things are sold out. I kind of get bummed out, you know, like, they really wanted that and now I couldn't get it, but I could get a greeting card. Or sometimes my budget is really tight, and I was just talking to a friend about this, that every month the income is about the same, but the amount of spending in the month of December just spikes. And some people do go into debt because of it. I'm trying not to do that. But the point being is that monthly income is about the same, but spending spikes in December. So I don't want my friends to overspend. It honestly makes me sad to think that they're shopping and probably going into debt, credit card debt, coming into January because they had this pressure that they felt, this pressure and the stress to go to the store and buy me something, or they went and it was sold out so they bought me something else, or they bought me something more expensive. Like, let's say they go on Amazon and they order something and they have to pay extra for faster shipping because they waited too long. I would much rather someone go out and find a greeting card that they feel fits me and then write a message and call it a day. That would be perfect. You know, my house is also small. I strongly encourage my friends to go to the store, pick out a greeting card, and write me a message. I feel like my friends don't really write, and people my age and people at the college, like in my peer group, it's rare if I see them writing, and if they do, they're writing notes. I don't really see them writing to other people, but I don't know what they do outside of the classroom. Maybe they do. But I feel like it's really out of fashion, and I don't really receive cards. I'm usually the person who's writing a card and gifting it to someone. And I don't say it in a way to like shame anyone. I say it in a way to be like, it's actually a really thoughtful gift that's affordable. It's easier to do on the fly compared to gift hunting something else. And I want to keep talking about greeting cards. I want to keep designing them. I want to keep sharing my passion for them, because I'm hoping that that will come back into fashion. I want my friends and my family to stop digging a financial hole. I want them to not feel stressed or pressured to get me a specific gift, and instead I encourage them to write me something that I could reread and hold on to and be really happy about. This year for Christmas, I'm actually gifting greeting cards. I joined 2 clubs at my college this year, and I gifted people greeting cards, and I didn't receive any, and that's an observation. So I received 0 greeting cards and I gifted 2 greeting cards, and then for Christmas I'm gifting about 5 postcards from my trip to the Redwood Forest. And I wrote pretty lengthy messages, and in my greeting cards I wrote a message and a quote So the other thing is, in the past for Christmas, I've usually received like just a signature. So I'm gonna keep making observations. Like, on average, do people just sign their name? On average, do they actually write a few sentences, like that sort of thing? On average, do people even give a greeting card? So this year I'm going to be paying attention for that. On another episode of the Happiness Lab, they were talking about how people like to be in the average, to be in the majority. So they were trying to figure out how to get hotel guests to reuse their towels at a hotel. So the way that they went about this was by creating a sign that said, most guests who stay in this room reuse their towels. Most guests who stay in this room reuse their towels. And that significantly caused people to reuse their towels and to not ask for extra or to ask for new towels, which I thought was really interesting. So all they had to do was make this sign with well-chosen language. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want most people to have greeting cards at least on their radar when it comes to gifting. I get recommended gift guide videos around the holidays, and depending on the video, it never mentions a greeting card, especially if it's one of those like Amazon finds, Amazon hauls, Target hauls. It's rare, like never do I ever see a greeting card in a haul. It's always slippers or matching pajama sets, maybe cookie cutters, lotions, candles, all thrown into a basket, and maybe there's a blanket or a Stanley cup thrown in there, but I never see greeting cards. And greeting cards are more affordable, in my opinion. They are more heartfelt, and those are the two things I want, is heartfelt and affordable. So with all of this being said, the Emily of today is going to make it a goal to write more next year, as well as send out more mail. We've covered a lot of goals today. Does the future, I'm losing track of the title, does the you of today hate the you of tomorrow? Well, if they do, what can you do to change that? I've been trying to love myself today so that I could love myself tomorrow, and that included like figuring out my budget, figuring out my clothes, making the goal to write more and to send more mail next year, and to work on my business. And I've just been writing and vlogging and making the effort, because in the past I used to just hope or assume like eventually my art will sell more. And that's not the case. It doesn't just happen because I hope it happens. It happens when I write things down and when I form a plan and I take action and when I'm consistent. So be consistent. 2024 was just a special year that really stood out because I worked on myself from January to December, and I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I would share the results of trying to connect with my future self, and the results are that it worked. I have completely changed from the person I was in January. I was shy and I was quiet, and I went to the Mount Santos business pitch competition being shy and on the verge of giving up. And I've been very transparent about this on my Instagram, and by letting my followers know, like, this is make or break. I am ready to give up Emmyteddy. I was so devastated and tired of working on my business, but looking back, I wasn't working on my business enough. I wasn't consistent enough, and I was upset that I didn't have results. And it's really easy to scoff at now, but at the time It was really devastating. So when I went to the competition and I won first place, it was a surprise to me. And even then, I didn't really feel joyous or happy because I had been depressed for so long. So when something good happened, I didn't even know how to celebrate or how to pat myself on the back, because the person I was then didn't like myself very much. So now to be here 12 months later in December, I'm like, I love myself, I'm doing fantastic, it's great. But all of that shift started because I began writing in a notebook. So this is my notebook that I will share with you. It has a 2024 checklist, and I did check off some things. And you know what? I'm not even upset that I didn't check off everything, and I'll tell you why. These are the goals that I wrote before I had practiced writing goals. So as I mentioned, I started my mentorship program over the summer, like around June and July. And I would meet with my mentee weekly to make goals, and we would reflect on the goals to figure out which ones were realistic. Did we actually achieve it? Maybe the timeline just needed to be longer. And we learned about ourselves and our art process and our businesses through making and altering goals. So I am much better at creating goals for myself and for my business now that we're here in December, after weeks and months of practice. But the person I was in January 2024, she did not really have experience writing out goals. So I only have two, and they were both marked in February. So number one was to back up my art files with an external hard drive. I've yet to do that, but that sounds like a great idea. I also wanted to send out more pitch emails till one sticks. I did send out more pitch emails, but eventually the rejection was too much and I gave up, and I was not able to cross this off my list. The next one says to create one detailed / perfect digital workbook. This one goal isn't a step-by-step plan. It is a start to finish. Create one detailed and perfect digital workbook. And that is not the way to write goals. The next one says type an article about my story. And I did do that. It is posted on my website, Emmyteddydesigns.com. And the next one says create a website and a newsletter / email list. That is such a loaded goal. I did create a website, I did create a newsletter, but it's not consistent, and I have an email list of about 2 or 3 people. Next, I have post the article and mail the workbook. That didn't happen. And then I also wanted to start streaming on Twitch more casually. I didn't do that either, and there's like all these check boxes below that because I had ideas for things that I wanted to stream. And if you've been here a very long time, then you know I used to stream on Twitch, I believe in 2022. So January 2024, me thought that I would get back into it. But you know what? I really don't like doing that. The 2 quotes that I have at the bottom say, every moment you live in the past is a moment you waste in the present, said by Tony Robbins. And then the next quote says, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant, said by Robert Louis Stevenson. And then we flip through here, I have requested articles. And I'm going to share these in case you guys are interested and you want to take these ideas. Like, you're more than welcome to do so. So the first one says, how to get your art into art galleries. I completed that April 17th. Next, how to make an art portfolio. Guilty of not finishing that one. How to get clients, did not get checked. And public speaking tips was checked April 25th. Next, I had ideas for birthday bundles. I did create a cowgirl disco, so I will go ahead and cross that one off if you guys want to download it. It's like a 25-page PDF file that you could print to have the ultimate cowgirl disco. It's got like a birthday banner and cupcake toppers, word search, maze, all kinds of activities and decorations for a birthday party. So I did make one. My other themes that I wrote on here were frogs and Emmyteddy, so like a birthday bundle that incorporated my bear mascot. Then I have my birthday design items, so greeting cards, invitations, coloring page, word search, word scramble, birthday banner, toothpick decor / cupcake toppers, centerpieces, name tags for seating, food labels, gift tags, recipe page, and party to-do list. And then I have this one titled YouTube Video Mental Health. This script I wrote 10/23/2024. It is all about my growth mindset, my mental health, a book that I was reading at the time that inspired all of this. This page is bookmarked. Here is the list of my Let's Go 2025 greeting card collection. I wrote a lot of things down. Starting from 1 through 12, I have Let's Go to the Movies, the Zoo, the Aquarium, the bookstore, a restaurant, a museum, a concert, an art gallery, the park, a vacation, an amusement park, and an arcade. 1 through 12 at the bottom is basically a list of ideas for me to draw to represent those places that we're going to. So for number 1, it was let's go to the movies. And I put that I could draw a movie ticket or a popcorn bucket or a film reel. But then I decided to go with number 12 for January. So that's let's go to an arcade. And on my list of ideas, I wrote a token, tickets, and lights. I ended up drawing an arcade machine that features my teddy bear mascot. You guys can go check that out on my Instagram, or I'm sure I'll input some footage here. The next page has ideas for art workshops and then 2025 goals. So I put here that I want to upload 4 YouTube videos in 2025. I would like to design 1 new collection, which I'm already counting the Let's Go collection for that. I also want to create a cat pattern. I want to host 1 art workshop, and I want to attend the Riverside Art and Music Festival with my booth, Emmyteddy Designs. So I think that's a pretty solid list. It has variety from YouTube videos, from collection design to a workshop to the festival. So the festival is where I would take my booth and sell my items. So I've got some pre-recorded videos. I've got art that I could work on, and I have a plan to go to an event to sell my art. So that's pretty solid. That seems more attainable. That sounds easier to do. That sounds realistic to do. That sounds way more enjoyable. So that's to give you an idea of how much I've changed. I've changed my thinking process, and I've changed the way that I set up my goals. So, woohoo, we did it. That is a super long YouTube video, but you know what? It's fine, because all of my scripted YouTube videos have been 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and as I mentioned before, they were scripted, they were chopped up, and I hated the editing process. But this video went with an outline to get us started, and then once I got started, I couldn't stop yapping. And if you've been here or if you follow me on Instagram, then you know that I've been dreading the YouTube content process, from editing to setting up to sitting down and chatting. I'm just a perfectionist, okay? Like, I'm always thinking, does my hair look nice? But look at me now. My nails need to be redone. They are cracked. They are not perfect. Sometimes I would paint them just to make the video, and sometimes you guys wouldn't even really see my hands. So just to give you perspective of how much growth has happened. So much growth has happened, and the growth happens because I practice, because I write, because I'm consistent. And I'm sharing all of these things with you because maybe that's helpful to you. Maybe you're in the same boat. Maybe you want to grow too. So this is all the advice and all the help and all the stuff that I've been up to. And I've just been up to so much. And I don't want to hide that anymore. I want to talk. I'm so excited. Like, look at all these things. Look at all these things. Look at the stuff that I'm interested in. I'm interested in so much stuff. So here we are. The hardest part is getting started. And even though I know that it was still hard to make YouTube videos, but moving forward, I'm going to try not to use a script. Instead, I'm going to utilize outlines, and the beginning will be really good with my outline, and then the end will be whatever this was. It was hanging out with you. It was more fluid. It was more talking to a friend and building community. So real conversations don't have this big structure. They're not essays. They are conversations. So this video started with my outline and it followed my train of thought, and here we are. Thank you so much for being here, and do let me know if any of this resonated with you, if it was helpful, eye-opening, relatable, if it was a new perspective maybe you hadn't thought of before. Let me know if it sparked a joy or if it inspired you to try something new, because I would love to know. And that's it. That's all from me. If you would like to check out my other YouTube videos, I cover art and business strategies, from mentorship to name tags and things like this, personal well-being and positive psychology. Those are my bread and butter. So if you're into those topics, be sure to subscribe. I also have my website, Emmyteddy Designs, and not only do I sell things, but I also have a blog. So if you want something to read, print out, annotate it, write notes, go check out my blog over there. More free stuff. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.